Learn to create the life you deserve and desire with my Couch to Healthy 12-week wellness program. In this program, you'll learn how to create the mindset needed for better health, healthy eating habits, proper exercise using the slow, easy method to burn fat, and some of the best strategies to get and stay motivated. The program is now 50% off for a very limited time. Click on the link in the show notes to learn more.
Wouldn't we all like to achieve a balance between mind, body, and spirit and find that key to everlasting inner peace? That's exactly what today's episode is all about, unlocking the keys to achieving that state of inner peace and balance between mind, body, and spirit. My guest today is international best-selling author, speaker, and holistic health expert Ambika Devi.
Ambika, welcome to the Be Well, Be Safe, Be Happy, Eat Ice Cream podcast. I'm so happy to have you here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Brad. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, I am just super stoked and excited to have you here today. You can't see it through my long sleeves, but I got goosebumps underneath. We were talking a little bit off camera, and you have got an incredible background. I mean, we were talking about all your travels and your studies and holistic health studies and everything, and you've got so much. I already mentioned I'm going to have you back on the podcast because we won't get it all today in one episode. But one area I really want to focus on with you today is this idea of you call it harmony between body, mind, and spirit, and this idea of finding inner peace. Because I know that's, especially in today's world, that's so important because so many people are like high strung and stressed out and just like go 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 hustle culture, and we don't get enough of this harmony of body, mind, spirit, and just this idea of finding inner peace. So let's go there and let's start there. And what can you share with us about that?
We live in a world of perceived opposites. So, perceived opposites do not create harmony. Harmony is from polarity. But when we're looking at the idea of balance, we're saying good and bad, black and white, on and off. And coming from my Far Eastern background training,
Uh-huh.
I, at a very early age, was introduced to meditation. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. And as a first grader, I was taught to sit still. Then, soon after, I saw what yoga is. And then, after that, my mother started going to yoga class and taking me with her. So, I, at an early age, was introduced to these ideas, and throughout my life I've studied more and more. I've been certified in 5 different yoga schools. 2 of them are ashrams lineages. The one that I stay with, which is where I received the name Ambika Devi, is Shivananda Ashram, and I continue to study there. The idea of body, mind, spirit is actually from Sanskrit. The words are translated. Now, we know what yoga is. You probably get an image in your mind of people in tight outfits or maybe loose
Downward
doing
dog, up
postures, and
dog.
maybe some looks a little Cirque du Soleil, but yoga is for the mind. So there's the mind in the formula. Now, some of us have heard of Ayurveda, and I did write about it, an intro in my second book, which is Unfolding Happiness. And this is an introduction to Ayurveda, which is for the physical world. So that's actually for the physical body. I know when we see the exercises in yoga, we think it's for the body. That's to get us comfortable, to sit still, to meditate, so that we can look at the mind. And then Jyotisha. Well, that's the one that hasn't really reached the idea of mainstream yet. Jyota means light. And so this is the science of light. These are 3 sisters forming Jyotisha for the spirit. So there's spirit. So we have Ayurveda for the body, yoga for the mind, Jyotisha for the spirit, body, mind, spirit. And these 3 have been the ultimate path that I continue to go down and study and am drawn to.
How can the average person who doesn't have your knowledge or understanding of what you just said and yoga in particular, which I could do a whole another show on yoga with you because I have a bunch of questions about yoga. But
Excellent.
how can the average person, take this idea you just mentioned of body, mind, and spirit and find more peace, like more harmony? Should they just sit in silence all day? Or I mean,
Mm.
said it's opposites, and it's such a hustle culture, and we're so stressed out and high strung nowadays. Are we going at life all wrong, or what's going on?
I would never back up and judge people like that.
Mhm.
You're doing life the best you can. And having been a coach all my adult life, I first help people to understand and become at peace with themselves. We have to accept where we are and we have to accept the world around us. And then we must learn to accommodate and adapt. We have no choice, right? So if we're fighting against it, but the first place to begin is don't try and push yourself to become like a monk who can sit for
Right.
hours and hours in silence like a mountain. No, instead,
Mhm.
how about we just start with 3 breaths and take a mini break? Just take a moment. Those moments before your eyes open, if you can stop yourself before your eyes open in the morning and just have a moment of gratitude or notice that you're breathing and you're alive again, this is mindfulness when we're taking the mind. And notice I said the mind, I didn't say your mind, because we yogis do not see the mind as interior. We see it as external and unified. And it does take time to kind of go from our Western thought into the idea of Eastern thought. It's different, so be patient. On my podcast, which is not an interview podcast like yours, Brad,
Mhm.
but it is audio versions of articles that I post on my blog and also guided meditations. And in there, I've got a very short one, less than 5 minutes. Can you invest less than 5 minutes? Is all I ask. Or can you invest 3 breaths, which is what I'm guiding you to do in that? So, really, we just need to stop with a moment of gratitude, stop with a moment of realization of where we are, who we are, or what we perceive we are, because we've heard the idea, I'm sure you have, of we are spiritual beings having a human experience,
I'm
right?
very familiar with that. Yeah, I adhere to that philosophy a lot. Yeah.
And so that means that this is not reality, then. Right?
That's
That
a
means
deep
this is
concept for
in
a lot of
some an
people.
elusive
Yeah.
kind of situation here. But we're here. We landed here. So we must function within the laws of the land. And we must learn to adapt to it. But then we must bring ourselves back to peace, love, and understanding. This is the challenge of dealing with the mind. And the mind loves to give you these waves of sub vocalization. This is what that voice in your head is. And as a meditator, as a yogi, because remember, yoga equals meditation, then what we learn to do is back up from all of the senses, to withdraw from them and witness what's going on. But first, we have to understand what the senses are doing and triggering, because we are getting triggered every second, multiple times, to make choices and decisions.
Yeah, this I look at you, or I guess I sense your energy, Ambika, and it's very much at peace. So a lot of what you're describing,
Mm.
and doing this for years, is this I guess practice makes perfect, they say, or repetition, or doing this over and over. I mean, you've been doing this for what, 30 plus years now, or something like that, or how long have you been?
Almost 50. I
Almost.
mean, if I'm 63, so I began when I was 6 years old,
Wow.
understanding how to sit still quietly, do the math. So I've been doing this a long time. I remember in 6th grade, we had a May Day celebration. I was going to a Quaker school. That's where I learned to sit. And in the May Day celebration, we were on a property that was originally claimed by William Penn in Pennsylvania, with a gorgeous ancient grove of pine trees with a natural kind of sloping. So it was where we had all of our big outdoor assemblies and celebrations. And on May Day, we did the May Day dance, very pagan, around maypoles, with the ribbons and weaving them. It was a big deal. And as a 1st grader, I had a big sister, 12th grader. And we were all in white. And here came all these yogis with, we had remember the old, well, maybe you don't remember the old,
I'm
the
not a
old
big chick.
record players that had the
Oh yeah.
horns on them. You've seen them in movies, everybody, maybe an old Sherlock Holmes movie or something, but with like a megaphone for a speaker. And they were doing yoga, just kind of a yoga flow, like a dance. And I turned to the child next to me and I said, I'm going to do that. I mean, so where does that come from in a 6th grader? We yogis, we talk about reincarnation, but thank you for honoring that I've done a lot in this lifetime, but it is thousands of lifetimes of practice.
Heard that too. Yeah, yeah. Let me because again our time is limited here. You brought up your book a few minutes ago, this idea of unfolding happiness. Where did that title come from and what do you mean by that?
The title was developed by myself and the co-author. He and I would talk about, well, what are we trying to get across in talking about an introduction to Ayurveda, to helping you with your environment and to help you with the introductory steps to meditation and also diet, because Ayurveda does talk a lot about diet, less about supplements. I did teach holistic health at the college university level for 21 years. So
Yeah.
I have a lot to say about that. And I've explored many different versions, traditional Oriental medicine, where acupuncture and shiatsu comes from. And I chose to do hands-on rather than with needles as a practitioner. But I certainly can. And herbology, aromatherapy, so many things. But in this particular book, we just wanted to speak to the inner child. So it's actually rated at 9 years old and up. And it is a really good introduction to changing a lot of thought and environment, because our environment is constantly affecting us.
Well, so let me again, this idea of unfolding happiness. So is happiness something that we like try to pursue, or something that we become, that we work towards, or is it something that we already are, that we discover within us?
That's a great question. It's a birthright. It's already there, but we
Okay.
prevent it and block it because the mind is constantly feeding us information that fools us into not being happy.
Ah, okay, okay. What do you mean by that? Like, what information is the mind? Like when you say in
Everything.
this case, you're talking about our thoughts.
Hmm. Yes. So we are constantly posed with choices.
Okay.
We're not realizing many of them. We catch just a tiny, tiny fraction of the subvocalization in the form of thought. These become spokes in a wheel that loops around.
Ah,
And these thought loops can be triggered by any one of these different ideas, but they can take us into the spiraling thought loop. So to unfold is like unpacking your happiness, or getting the barriers out of the way. And the 3 pillars of Ayurveda, which we measure wellness by, is the environment. So Ayurveda brings us that. The sleep that you're getting, and how you're digesting. And what are we seeing? All these different things bombarding us every day. It's either about a better body, or getting sleep or rest, or stress, or environment, my gosh, we are bombarded every day with ideas about things to buy, things to grab. And then the pairs of opposites that I mentioned earlier is really boiling down to I like it, I don't like it. But equanimity and harmony, when we unpack it, is neither.
So
It's
it's
simply
these,
witnessing.
yeah, so it's these thoughts you mentioned that are in this thought cycle, this spinning wheel cycle. You use that metaphor. This is what's blocking the inner peace, the inner happiness, because you're saying we're born with it. It's already there, and through I guess culturalization or growing up, whatever, this becomes blocked. So is this the when people say you peel away the layers of the onion? Is this what they're talking about?
I'm sure that is what the Western psychology is talking about,
Okay.
is peeling, and I'm saying
Yeah.
unfolding. And I do origami. So on the cover, there's an origami that I folded.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It kind of, whenever I'm designing a book, because I'm the publisher, um, and writer, whenever I'm designing a book, I get a visual. I am one of those people who voraciously loves to learn and create. So I have multiple degrees in different things. And again, back to the pick a lane thing, that we mentioned before about, trying to find what to talk to me about, right?
Right.
We were doing this before the show, everybody. Uh, the thing is, we all have these different facets, but many of us get fooled into this is who you are, this is what you are, this is what you came to be. You have everything as far as choice. We make choices, millions of them a second. We're not aware of them. Are you making a choice for the hairs in your small intestine to move what you ate for breakfast or lunch along? No, but it's happening, right? And then sometimes you might have a flash about something from your past. It's your choice to react to it. We know just with pain management, if we're focusing on the pain, it exacerbates, right? It inflates the idea, and it hurts more. And from meditation, we've learned, and this is now being used scientifically and in hospitals,
Okay.
bless the hearts of the caretakers that they have clued
Oh,
into
I've heard that.
this,
Yeah.
that when we can teach people to focus on something else, happy thoughts will cancel out negative thoughts every time. So if you're unhappy, if you're in pain, I know it sounds crazy, but if you can push your cheeks up with your fingers and make a smile and just go ha 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 ha, you will start making yourself laugh.
Yeah, it
This
does.
is what laughter yoga does. This is just one of the techniques. And I have looked at so many different ways throughout this lifetime of how to help people calm their relationship with the mind. So now I do speak on stages, and a lot of times the event planners love the idea of the title Unfolding Happiness. I'm actually going to be addressing nurses later this year and helping them and delivering CEUs to them by teaching them some of these techniques. And I know they're going to be there with their pens wanting to take notes, and it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah. Let me ask you this because you've got so much experience. As a health coach, I'm always obsessed with this idea of health and being healthy and being more healthy. I'm just curious, what is your definition of health and being healthy? And how does anyone get more healthy, I guess?
Well, this is also the fine line
Mhm.
between equivocating health and happiness.
Okay.
I think culturally, especially in the advertising world, we're trying to equivocate happiness by saying if you're healthy, you're happy.
Right, right. We are. And if you're not healthy, you're not happy. But
Well,
I'm a
certainly.
real quick, I'm a perfect example. I was very fit, and a lot of people would argue healthy, but I was not happy at all. I was miserable as part of my story and journey. Yeah. So I'm sorry, continue. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. But then also, there are people who are suffering with chemicals going into them and being treated for known and named diseases. And they are happy, they're content, they're at peace. So it's acceptance, Brad, of where we're at. I do not believe that health must be there, great health or whatever we're measuring, a cut and very muscular body or
Right.
whatever state with happiness. No, happiness is there. It's what you're reacting to that's creating the state of what you're thinking or you think you're thinking. And I don't equivocate that. It's, are you at peace? Are you accepting what's going on right now? That's how we tap into happiness. Now, I know a lot of people suffer, and the Buddhists say life is suffering, but I think the confusion in that phrase is therefore I have to suffer. No, you don't. It gets a little bit lost in translation for me, because I feel that when we can get a grip on acceptance, then we can understand that this is where we are, and then we can allow the happiness to come back. Think about when you were a little baby, Brad. Did you ever, you expected everybody to take care of you? This is every little baby that's born. We're born wanting to giggle and wanting to be tickled and cuddled, most of us,
Right.
and wanting to be, in that happy state. But we have reactions. Again, if you watch babies and little children, they can pitch a total fit, but they can turn it around and it's as if it never existed. We have that ability.
This idea of acceptance, I kind of understand what you're talking about. I used that word for a long time, and then I switched the word. I read something somewhere in a blog or a book, and instead of using the word acceptance, it used the word okay. Like everything going around me is okay. And for whatever
Hmm.
reason, that resonated with me a lot more than acceptance. I know, and again, yeah, I'm judging here a little bit, but so many of us struggle with this idea of acceptance because we've got, like, Hurricane Ida, the natural disaster. We've got so many external things going on. How do we accept when life is bringing? How do we make lemonade when life is giving us lemons? I guess, so to speak.
Like, I don't want you to think I'm some sort of, happy go lucky all the time. Nothing's ever happened to me.
Right, right,
Poop hits the fan in everybody's life, people.
right,
You
right.
know, it definitely does. But if we stay reacting, then we're hurting ourselves further. We have to go, okay, this happened. Now it's my opportunity to handle it, and it's my responsibility what's going on in the mind. I have actually turned clients down who refuse to get off or work on a thought loop. I've
Uh,
said, look, you're not listening. You don't want to. You're so attached to the pain you're creating that, when you're ready to let it go, let me know,
and
because I can help you.
mm, yeah. For anyone listening, I don't know if this will help. I tend to learn and hear and read other things, and I often have to translate it for my own mind because, like I said, the word acceptance, it just, for whatever reason, it didn't make sense to me, and then the word okay did. One thing, I think I'm saying the same thing you're saying, Ambika, and you can correct me, but I always say it's about a state of who you are being, and we
Hmm.
choose how we show up and choose who we are being. And for me, what's helped a lot about this idea of inner peace is a meditation. So morning meditation, I'll focus on being this thing called inner peace. Just allowing any tension to flow out of my body and just focus on being in this very peaceful state. And then it's a constant training and conditioning, oh, I'm going to be this inner peace. I'm going to show up as this inner peace and just continuing to, like, again, coming from a physical aspect, train that muscle vibration, that inner peace vibration or something.
Hmm.
I don't know. Does that make sense? Anything I'm saying?
Absolutely. Any repetition of the positive and whatever word works. Words create images.
Yeah.
Whether we really buy that or not, they really do. And we are visual communicators. That's why video has become such a popular way of communicating, because we're visual learners and we like some of us like certain types of sounds, or we all have likes and dislikes, but to find harmony is removing And that is a tricky bit. If the word okay works for you, great. I accept, adapt, accommodate. One of my teachers many years ago called it the AAA club.
Yeah.
So that stuck with me and it worked, but if it doesn't work for you, throw it out. Whatever is working for you, use it. We have to understand when it comes to sleep, when it comes to environment, when it comes to what we're eating, because the word diet means what we're putting in us. It's not going on a diet. It's what's in your kitchen. Everything to heal you should be in your kitchen. And when we've got good digestion, how many of us have had maybe a meal that overstuffed or was too rich or was too dry? Or we kind of overdid it with something the night before. How's your digestion the next morning? Not so great, right? Or maybe even that night. Maybe that night you were already, well, what did I do? So we know digestion is a good monitor. And then sleep. How many people are struggling with sleep? So many. I created a sleep course to help people, because not everybody has the same thing that's causing the issue, and not everybody has the thing that's going to help them the same. So we have to understand we're unique individuals. We all start with a particular nature.
A couple of other things I want to dive into in our limited time, but real quick, tell us about your books, your courses, your website, all of that. How can we get a hold of you? And for anyone listening, I always put all this information in the show notes also. But how can people reach you, Ambika?
The best way is just my name.com, my website, which is ambikadevi.com. And it's AMBIKADEVI.com, ambikadevi.com.
Ambika. And another show we can dive into the origins of the name. That's such a beautiful name. And what does it translate into in English?
It's a name of a goddess. And it was given to me by a Swami when I was living and studying at Shivananda Ashram. They have ashrams all over the world. I live in Florida, so the Bahamas campus is the closest. So I've been there quite often, and I continue to study with Swamis from this organization. I have known about them since I was a little kid, but it wasn't until I moved to Florida. I used to live in Arizona, and before there, other places. But when I began studying there, I really felt at home. And this was the fifth of my yoga certifications.
Wow.
It was the fourth. The fifth was when I was getting my master's degree in yoga, and I had to take a course from another community that was integrated with the university at the time.
Well, Ambika, you are a true shining example of what I like to call love, light, health, happiness.
Oh.
And one of the key components I say this podcast is about is this idea of living a happier, healthier, more fulfilled life. What if you were to have one take-home message or one, piece of advice, right? There's always the advice question or something like that. But what would that take-home message to our listeners be today about this idea of being the light of love, health, happiness, or having a life of more fulfilled, happier, healthier, more fulfilled life?
First, you've got to really get your sleep, your diet, and the things and your environment,
Basics, right?
calm and peaceful. Without that, I don't know how you could do it. So you've got to look at the media and everything you're consuming. And then you've got to spend some time with you. You need me time. You've got to go out in nature. You've got to look at the sunrise once in a while. You've got to look at the night sky and get to know what's out there. And then you've got to spend time in front of the mirror, talking to yourself into your own eyes. Remember, that's how we communicate. So if you've
Hard one.
got sight, you must use it, because
Yeah.
this is powerful. And if you need help, reach out for it. You can't suffer alone. That will just create more pain. But what I do to get right is if something happens where I feel like I hit a speed bump or a wall, because it happens to all of us, you've got to take time out. You can't keep pushing with
Mm.
your other things. Now, it's difficult if you've got a lot of responsibilities. Maybe you have children, a family, elderly parents. I mean, I can tell you when I took care of elderly parents, that was so, so stressful, you know?
I'm in Oklahoma now. Yeah, that's part of what brought me here. You mentioned just a second ago about looking yourself in the mirror. I definitely highly recommend that for anyone. I've had clients actually that have refused to do that, look themselves in the mirror. But one last thing I'm curious, I want to ask you, because again, you've lived this lifestyle. You are this lifestyle. You
Hmm.
by example, you obviously practice what you preach. You talk, I think is the expression. My question is, and I've been able to do this, and I get asked this sometimes too, is how have you been able to prioritize your wellness and your well-being about pretty much everything else? Because I think a lot of people, for them, and they say that health and well-being is a priority, but if you look at the way they live their life, it's like number 8 or 9, especially when it comes to the 2 things you mentioned, sleep and diet. How have you been able to make this a priority and a way of life?
It just is, Brad. I wish I could just give you a single sentence or three as a formula, but I was fortunate enough to have parents that supported me in great education and creativity. They never tried to squelch it. And I that was a huge gift. And then I just always believed in myself. I didn't let other people tell me what to be or what to do, even though I was good at things, like say in high school. I I was on my way towards theoretical physics and took a 180, or maybe it was a left or a right, I don't know, but I decided to go to art school. Well, that has, if you looked at just that, that could, drive teachers crazy. And I started being in business for myself at age 14. I grew up around horses and I taught horseback riding. And I got my first external job at a theater as an usher. So, I had two jobs when I was a little kid as soon as I could work. And I just always believed in myself. Now I realize with the people who think pick a lane and you should only do this one thing, I look like a hot mess probably to
Ah.
them, but you know, so what? I believe in myself. This is what makes me happy. I don't like to get up at the same time every day. Don't think I'm regimented. Yes, sometimes I get up before the sun comes up and I can sit in meditation for 2 hours. And some days it might be 3 breaths. It just depends. I truly go with the flow of what I'm feeling. And
You're in full
most
acceptance.
people don't. So now here I am in my 60s with the world economy. I'm still working very actively because, I still have a mortgage and things that are real responsibilities in the current society. But I've always, look, I was raised by pacifists. I was taught at an early age, shoot pictures, not guns. Hey, that's paying off on social media now, you know? And though I may not agree with what's going on in the world, I accept it and I don't give up my mission, which is to spread love, to spread peace, and to help people in any way I can. My mission is to help people unfold their happiness and to tap into it again with whichever avenue they feel they want or that I can identify and suggest that would help them.
And I can see also part of, for anyone listening, that this philosophy you talk about, the 3 A's: accept, accommodate, and adapt. You have completely embraced that philosophy. So anyone listening, I think part of the answer to my question for you, because you've embraced a philosophy, a way of life of accept, accommodate, and adapt. So maybe that's one key for anyone listening, is to have a philosophy for a way of life and embrace that
Yes.
philosophy. I just want to say real quick again to that question, because I struggled with this too. This idea of, how do you live a happier, healthier, more fulfilled life? I went from the transformation, who I was, this really overweight, lethargic couch potato, really depressed, low self esteem. I said, this is who I don't want to be. Okay, let's create a vision of who I do want to be. Oh, I want to be fit, healthy, smiling, happy, have this inner peace. So I've worked really hard over the years to become that I call it my point B, that higher vision of me. So if you are listening, it's where you are and having that higher vision of who you want to be and embracing, like you have done, on because this philosophy, this way of life of for you, accept, accommodate, and adapt. Well, Ambika, I hate to do this. This is the end of the show here, and we need to begin wrapping things up. I just want to give you one final chance to say anything else that you may not have already said before we sign off here.
The thing that I want to urge you to do, everybody, is be okay with asking for help and be okay with saying no, thank you. One of the biggest stumbling blocks I see in my clients is when they know something's hurting them and they still continue to try and get it instead of saying, you know what, I'm done with that. No, thank you. Or when you identify it, but then you maybe turn that off, but then you manifest it again. So manifestation is a big part of it. Realizing that what we desire looks shiny and new, but then when we get it, it's not so exciting after a while.
Yeah,
So set your priorities of in this order. Health first. Health is first, then family, then career. If you can at least begin with that, you will become a lot more happy.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then when you need me, I'm here for you. I would love to help you.
yeah. And again, for anyone listening, I will put contact information and show notes and all of that, or excuse me, contact information in the show notes, uh, for you to reach Ambika. Ambika, it has been a true pleasure. Thank you very much for being here today. This is wonderful. We'll definitely have you back and go on all these other topics, and we could probably talk a lot off camera too about a lot of this. Again, for the listener, I want to say thank you very much. And if you have listened here all the way to the end, I like to say thank you and always offer you a free gift. So DM me the word of the show, which for today will be yoga, YOGA. DM me that word, and I will send you for free my 24-day Walking for Health program. People always ask me, well, what do I do to stay fit, happy, and healthy? I put it all in this program. It's called 24 Days Walking for Health. I made a walking version of it because I know a lot of people prefer walking versus what I do, more of a trail running. But DM me the word yoga, and that program is yours for free. It's got thousands of dollars worth of research and development in it, and it's yours for free. And also, if you are listening, please hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave me that 5-star review. I would sure appreciate it. And until next time, this is Coach Brad saying be well, be safe, be happy, eat ice cream. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.